Hey, this is Jack Downs with a video for people who missing class today, Wednesday, September 27th. And let's start with a look at the schedule. The topic today is music and copyright. Well, as we get into the ethics and law issues, the idea of copyright in particular, there will be a quiz on this, including the reading in 1 week, not on week, 1 week, I believe. Yeah, there's a quiz on not Monday, actually, yeah, a week. So we quiz on next coming Wednesday, which will be the last class. Well, not the last class before break. The last class that is required before break, and then the final class before break will be extra credit class, which I encourage everyone to come to. You're supposed to be working on what to do this class is your voice-over music bed file with your PSA. Yes, you should have full instructions on that. That's due today on Brightspace. You're supposed to be working on your Vox Pop. Those of you who are out with COVID or something and unable to work with your partner, I will give you an extension, but remember, it's still, there'll be other projects very soon. So you really need to get rolling as soon as you can. At least make sure you're ready. Consider getting in touch with Jess to do it with her, to have her go with you. And then I ask you to read from the text, chapter 15. I am also, in this class, I'm giving ethics and law reading. I guess I'll probably scan it and send it to you for people who are not here. I'll probably attach it to an email. And Vox Pop, next class. Speaking of continuing projects, next class the Vox Pop is due. So the Vox Pop audio file, the scripts, so that would be the script that says, the original script, and then the rewritten script, and then the checklist. Remember, there's the paperwork is just one per team. If you're doing this as a team, and I hope you are. There's an original script, a rewritten script, and a checklist, one per team. But each of you put 2 files each, MP3s, on Brightspace, and in the paperwork you note which one is the important one for me to focus my grading on. Ethics and law reading, which I am handing out. And then from the text, I'm asking you to read chapters 16 and 17 now through the weekend. I'm going to give you a handout about more extra credit, and I'll probably mention one here too. Ethics and law. That's next class. And then we'll make a swerve into video, but we're about to hit break too. After, we'll be heavily into video after break. So that's the schedule. Let's take a look at the presentation. I'm talking about copyright, which sounds really boring. But I just want to let you know, as this search shows, that copyright is a very active part of the law right now. Music and creative works and copyright. Remember, copyright is different from trademark, is different from a patent, but they all involve kind of like intellectual property, stuff someone thought up. Okay. Trademarks have to do with names of things and logos and branding. Okay, the trademark. Trademark a saying or a name of a company or something like that. And patents have to do with physical things that are built and processes and materials. Okay, so what's copyright about? Copyright is about, we'll get to that in a minute. It's about ideas, about creative works, really, about creative works. Not just the idea, it has to be a creative work. So there's all kinds of, if I do a search for copyright now, there's all kinds of stuff going on, especially about AI. AI and copyright is a big deal right now. And how that's going to work out, who knows? But it does sound like the AI companies definitely violated vast numbers of copyrights by training without asking their products on copyright works. So that's going to be a big question, because those works are protected by copyright. So, and what else? I'll let you know that this is an older article, but shows you where copyright comes into play. In political campaigns, it can too. I'm going to try to play this. If this doesn't play well for you, then consider listening to it yourself. There's a link on the presentation, which you'll have a PDF of. I don't want to play live radio. I'll play this 5-minute listen. There it is.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. When Sierra Nevada opened their second brewery in North Carolina, they saw it as an opportunity to build on sustainable practices they've been working towards for years. Tap the play button to meet their Director of Sustainability, Mandy McKay, who shares how they designed systems to help save and reuse water.
A little ad sort of there
If you've
for
been to campaign rallies, you know part of the fun is rocking out to music before or after a candidate is on stage. Well, turns out this practice can get presidential candidates sued by, you guessed it, musicians. Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich have both been asked to stop using popular songs at their rallies. With that in mind, NPR's Joel Rose offered to give us a primer on music and copyright law. Political operatives, listen up.
Rule number 1, know your venue. Where you play a song can matter as much as what you play.
Fellow conservatives, please give a warm welcome to my friend and the 58th Speaker of the House of Representatives, Newt and Callista Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich's campaign is being sued for copyright infringement by a member of the band Survivor for using the song Eye of the Tiger at campaign events without permission, including this 2011 appearance at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington. Copyright experts say you don't have to ask an artist's permission to play a popular song at your rallies, as long as the venue where you play it has what's known as a blanket license from the performing rights organizations known as ASCAP and BMI.
So, in other words, if you don't ask permission, but the place you're playing this music has permission to use it, well, then you're okay. But if your campaign bus just stops on the side of the road or at a county fair or something, and you get out and you play that music, you're not covered by any venue. Nobody has bought a license for that music, and therefore you'd have to have permission. And if you don't, they can sue you, and they do. Bruce Springsteen has definitely been more recently involved in these lawsuits, and other bands too. So yeah, that is definitely an issue, is music and political campaigns. This is an old story, but the same thing exists today. And what else? Think about that, like the Happy Birthday song. The copyright has only been lifted a few years ago on this. The Happy Birthday song, which is one of the reasons that so many restaurants developed their own birthday songs, is that the Happy Birthday song was protected. It isn't any longer, though. How about this is a famous case with Obama's, President Obama, a poster made, the Hope poster. His campaign didn't make it, but out of there. This poster, which we're talking about 10 years ago, was very popular, was sold and put on t-shirts and everything. It was made by a street artist, Shepard Fairey, and that was determined to be a photograph that was owned by the Associated Press. Interestingly, it was shot by a stringer who never got almost any money out of this, except just got paid for the assignment to shoot Obama and some other famous guy, George Clooney, at some event, I'm not sure what. And then Shepard took that image, turned it into, even though he changed it, he made it into a different image, it still was quite recognizable, was not significantly changed. And he made $400,000 of sales on the image. It got even messier because then the same guy tried to hide the evidence. Oops, where are we? No, I don't want that. That's the same thing I just did. I wanted to get this one. Yeah. And here he is. He tried to hide the evidence of it, and then he got even more trouble. He almost got put in jail for hiding the evidence of his crime, which is how people usually get in the most trouble. Okay, so in other words, it involves a lot of things that are around you. It involves people who make T-shirts. It involves Happy Birthday song. It involves political rallies, and it involves AI, and it's an active part of the law, and it can affect you as a content creator. What is copyright? Protection for intellectual property. Okay, but in some ways so is trademark, sort of, and so is patent, sort of. But it's in particular about created works. But we could say protection for intellectual property. It is okay to use something that doesn't have a copyright symbol. So I looked at the bottom of the article. There was no little copyright symbol as a circle with a C in it. No, you have to assume that everything is copyright protected. Text, music, video, audio, and images. Gosh, that's a lot of the stuff you use in college all the time. You've probably been stealing stuff off the internet all the time, like music, for instance, and maybe even using it in projects, or images, using them in projects. And that was kind of illegal. No, nobody's going to come at you because of putting in presentation, I suppose that you, whatever, but just know that you're supposed to have permission to use that stuff. And it's different if you put it on the internet. What if I change the original? What if I take that image and I make dramatic changes to it? I work on it in Photoshop or something or whatever. Well, it's a really dangerous area, as we just saw with that Shepard Fairey case, where he took the Obama image and made significant changes to it. It's probably there's real legal discussion about how much something has to be changed, so you can't be sure. So it's not safe. So it's probably, you have to assume it's still protected, unless you can make a claim under fair use. Okay. So yes, some people say, oh, if you change it 30%, then you're safe. You're not safe. You can still be sued. So don't assume you can just change something. And however, you may be able to use something even without changes under something called fair use. Fair use isn't like hard law, like a law that was passed that said fair use. It's been legal precedent, so it's legal decisions. What it says is you can use a limited amount of a copyrighted work without permission if it's either newsworthy, or perhaps you could look at it from another point of view and say it has a strong educational value. So the point is, there's a good reason to use it. It's newsworthy or it's educational value. And I've used a little bit of it or used it at a reduced size. And the real point is, because what copyright is all about is property. So what does property have? Property has value. So if I don't decrease the value of the original, if I don't make it less likely someone will go and buy that thing or pay a certain amount for that thing, then it's okay. I do need, in fair use, to credit the source. And on the other hand, I might do, under fair use, I might do something for parody. So Weird Al, in all of his parody songs, theoretically wouldn't have to ask permission to make those songs of the original creators if he's doing it in parody. Could he be sued still? Sure. And honestly, he gets permission to use all that stuff because people like him to use it because it actually makes their songs more famous and popular. But parody is sort of like making fun of something, or making a political comment with something, using it in a different way. In that way, theoretically, you don't have to ask permission. You could say, because it's parody, it's covered under fair use. But did it decrease the value of the original? Did you just use a little bit of it? Those are important points still. So, for example, and before I go on to the alternates or exceptions, I'll go back again. For example, if you're doing a news story about or a review of an album, and you use a couple of little clips, you don't use a whole song, you don't put the whole MP3 of the song up there for someone to take, you just use a little bit of music to show the example of something you're talking about, oh, that's fine, you don't get permission for that. Likewise, if you were writing about an artist and you used a piece of one of their works and you published the image, and you didn't make it full size in such a way that someone just cut it out and it had the same value as the original, which would be unlikely, then that's fine. You just used a small version of it, right? So those are ways we use things under fair use. Likewise, if I take a chapter out of a textbook and I copy it for you and give it to you, but because it's only one chapter or part of one chapter, it makes it less. It doesn't change the possibility that you would buy it in the future. Then I'm probably okay doing that also. And besides, textbook companies are not going to make any money by suing instructors. And likewise, I suppose artists are not going to make any money by suing you for putting a bit of your song in one of your podcasts. However, if you use a song you have permission to in your podcast, like it's the background music or the intro music, and your podcast starts to get popular, that changes things. Okay, fair use. Exceptions. So what can you do to use something that has copyright protection? You could get permission in writing. So you'd have to get in touch with them and get permission in writing. You're probably not going to do that, but that would be a good thing to do if you could do that, right? You could use something that actually doesn't have copyright protection anymore because maybe it once did, but now the copyright has expired. Well, I could go to find a bunch of music, songs from 1927 are no longer copyright protected because of the length of time the copyright has run out on these songs. This is a site where I could go search those songs. they want money to buy the sheet music for them. That's different, right? The sheet music for them. So they're charging for that, but the song itself is not copyright protected. Here's the weird thing. You go take Ain't She Sweet, which actually, I think I actually may know that song. Anyway, you take that song and you perform it and you do a recording of it. That, and just right this year, that recording is still protected. That will be protected. A recording of something, even if something that's not copyright protected, then itself becomes a creative work and can be protected. But anyway, so you're not going to make a lot of, you're not going to really want one of these for your podcast. And besides, you'd have to do the recording of it. Okay, so that's one thing. Also, though, that link does not work. So I'm going to try to go get that link out of here. And I should have made that a link. I'll do that right now. Where's my link? Good. And now I'm going to bring that back up. Oh, I didn't want that. Okay, well, good enough. And I'm going to go to that link. I just want to show you that. This is a list of how you, okay, well, maybe you say, well, I want to determine if that thing is no longer copyright protected. Wow, it's really complicated. These are all the various rules and special cases for different kinds of works, and where do they come from, and is the author known, and so on. I'm just scrolling through this giant list of various protections that have various lengths, and to say that you really, to be sure about it, if a work doesn't have copyright anymore, if its copyright is expired, there is not a hard and fast rule. Some people will tell you that it's 70 years, 75 years, 95 years. It's all over the place. 120 years, it's all over the place. So you almost really need a lawyer to tell you for sure. Okay, what else? Well, you could find something that was in the public domain, which means the copyright expired. You get permission in writing. You could use something that doesn't really have copyright, has a different kind of protection. A lot of people create things under Creative Commons licenses. They are licenses that allow you to set the protection. Like maybe it says, you can use this for non-commercial use as long as you credit me. And maybe you are or aren't allowed to make changes to it. So it's a way to put stuff out there in a way that it can be used in certain conditions, or if you use it for commercial use, you have to pay me a certain amount. And these links, I'm not going to go to these links. You can go to these links yourself. You can go to and find free music, and there's lots of other places, but under Creative Commons licenses. And many other places use Creative Commons licenses. So that's an alternative or exception, a way to use stuff essentially is safe from copyright law enforcement. What else? You could buy it. You could go to like Shutterstock.com or any other organizations that sell stuff, like the songs that we've been using in class, the music we've been using in class. Not the sound bites; those are probably violations, but all the other music, the songs, that stuff that was purchased, it was actually immune from copyright. It was declared that it did not have copyright protection as long as you bought it. And then you can do whatever you want with it. So, and the same thing with like stock images that you purchase. You own the copyright to them essentially. You own the right to use them however you want. There's lots of video like that. There's lots of music like that. You buy it, it's a sure thing. Do what you want with it, right? Also, why don't you make your own? You could go to some free online music creation tool, of which if I do a link, there's a whole bunch of them. These change all the time. So which one's best now? People are using Soundtrap, I guess, a lot now. I don't know about Audio Tool. These are supposedly free. Usually there's catches. So I'm going to use, again, a link that it wasn't a link. That's terrible. I got to get these links to work right. That one's not a link. I'm going to see if I can make that a link. Like that. And this is not a link either. It's supposed to be a link. Like that. Okay. So Soundation is one that I've used. I'm using now the education version of it, which has a free month trial or something like that. And I don't like it as much. The main Soundation website you can go to, I think they may have a free trial also, but I've used it too much, I guess, or something. But you shouldn't be paying money for these things if you want to use them. You don't have to use these things, but I could create a new project. And what would I do? So if you go to Foundation Education, you could also sign up for a 30-day free trial or something. And if you want to do it for extra credit, you can. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So what do you want to do? You could click on these, or you could just go over here to the loops and samples and start to pick some out. And I'm not going to take much time with this. Come on, loops and samples. It's taking forever to come up. I'm going to take, what's this one? I'm going to drop this in. That's not good. I don't like that. How about there was a combo piano. Maybe loops, drums, Kepler Star. Band Monster? What's that? Band Monster. Oh, that's terrible. There's some which are a bit more actual tracks that have a lot of stuff going on. All right, so I'm going to play these three things together. This is going to sound wild. Okay, that's not going to win any awards for music. And you could go through, you could take a piece, you can copy it, you can paste it in here again, and make more of them. You can continue to extend down the timeline. You can go to scroll bar here. In the end, you can go ahead and export, load project. You can load more files in here. One of these buttons in here allows you to export. There you go. Export the project as a WAV or a high-res MP3 or something like that. So if you work at this and go through all that stuff, or any of the other sites, which all of them have their own. You can also, by the way, adjust volumes, add special effects to any of these things here too, so change them. You could make your own music electronically, or you could just go pick up your guitar and get a Zoom and strum along. Of course, you wouldn't be allowed to play your favorite song that somebody else did, because of course that's copyright protected. You'd have to make an original composition, just improvise something, but make sure it's not somebody else's. Oops, excuse me. Gotta get to class. So I'll finish this later. Okay, let me try to remember where the heck I was for this little interruption there. Sorry. Yes, we're talking about alternatives or exceptions to copyright, ways to use copyright material stuff or find stuff that is not used. I talked about you could make your own. You could pay for. Oh no, we're not there yet. We're back here. Get permission in writing. Use public domain works that either had no owner, no one knows who made it, or copyright has expired, which is much more likely, and how that may not be that helpful, and it's hard to figure out yourself when copyright has expired. Creative Commons is a different type of protection, which gives the creator the ability to specify what is allowed. Typically, not always, but typically, non-commercial use is allowed with attribution. Commercial use either may not be allowed or may be allowed if you pay a fee. And these are some links, but there's many others places you can find. Creative Commons is used a lot more these days. It gets your stuff out there, but it protects you somewhat. You could buy it, either go to websites that offer royalty-free music or video or images, like stock images, and then once you buy it, you have the rights to do whatever you want with it. Some of these websites might allow you to either pay a subscription fee to get a certain amount over a certain period of time, or you get all you want forever if you sign on forever, or some places you would buy DVDs or CDs of the material, and then you just own it and do what you want with it. As I said, that's like the song files that we're using in class for the PSA. Yes, you can make your own. And I was showing you, that's right, I was showing you this program, right? And I put some stuff together here. So if you use a program like this, and there's many others, as I said, you could go ahead and make your own music. Here we are. And then you'd have free use of it. In fact, you could use it, therefore, to do your own extra credit PSA with music. Create music that you can use with your PSA in the same way that you use those sound files. If you do one of those, that's an extra credit option for you too. On the other hand, you can just go get your guitar, as I said, just strum along, improvise, make some original composition, and make some music like that. Record it for what? Less than a minute. Either way, less than a minute, and you'd have music you use for your PSA, or just use it to make music for fun. And probably some of these other sites that you'd find through this link, or if you just search Google free online music creation, probably these days some of them are better than Soundation, or maybe freer than Soundation. So you could take a look at that. And likewise, yes, you could pay for professional use. And just like in the very beginning, in that video we listened to, I mentioned ASCAP and BMI, not the video, the audio, the radio story. When you talk about a blanket license for like a concert hall or a convention center or something, so they can use any music that they want, this is what they're getting. They're paying for professional use. It's how radio stations and concert halls can use almost any music that they want. Its fees are paid to those big publishing companies. Speaking of permission to use things, what else do we need permission for? Well, journalists generally don't need permission to interview somebody. The person can say no, but they don't need permission. They don't have to get releases signed, or they don't need written permission. Or to record in public, they can record audio or video. Standing on a public sidewalk, they can record audio or video of something happening, even something happening on private property, as long as they're not being intrusive with like long lenses or other devices that allow them to catch that material that they wouldn't normally be able to hear or see from standing there. You might have to get permission to work on private property, yes, or you could be told to leave private property. You're not, being a journalist doesn't allow you to trespass, be someplace you're not allowed to be without permission. It doesn't allow you to enter a crime or fire emergency scene. But if that accident has taken place and you're standing there with everybody else on the sidewalk or something, and everyone is allowed to stand there, you can stand there too. So you don't have to have permission to take photographs, images, video, audio of a fire or of an accident or an emergency scene, unless you're in that scene, and then you could be told to stand back, and that's fine. But you don't have to get permission. PR professionals, though, especially when they're making promotional work for like advertisements, in other words, things from for-profit companies, they should and usually do get written permission for everything, written approvals, written releases, if they interview or record everybody they do. They want to essentially own or have permission to use that person's image, that person's voice. Because if you're selling a product with it especially, then that can be a problem. People could say you owe them money afterwards because you used their image or voice, or maybe their location. So they would usually get releases for location signed too, permission to collect video, for instance, in a location. Sign contracts with people that do voice work for them. PR professionals in general want to own the content. And the last page of this presentation is just some stuff that's also in the schedule about that you could be asked for the ethics and law quiz based on the reading, including the new reading, which I have scanned and will send to you now too. So take a look through the schedule, keep up with stuff as best you can, and please, and here's the other information, including the attachments to the video.